You sound like an old man. You know I can hear you and it's recording, right? Cool. Please get it together, Tater. Alright, so this says, everybody, can we just hustle up on our taping so we can pay attention to this? Since, how many of you circled red on your trapezoids? Look at you being honest. I'm super proud. I know that the rest of them did as well. They're just not raising their hand because they're not paying attention.
I really should have probably sent.
Yeah. Alright, so this says, find the value of x if EF is 29, AB is 23, and DC is 11x plus 2. Now, EF is a midsegment. So, you have to use the formula. EF equals AB plus DC divided by 2. Stop talking while I'm talking. Now, it tells you that EF is what? 29. And AB is 23. DC is 11x plus 2, all divided by 2. This is a fraction. Fractions are what mathematical operation? Division. And what's the opposite of division? Multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2 because we need to get rid of our denominator. What is 2 times 29? What's 23 plus 2?
Oh my God.
Now what do I do? Good. And I get 11x equals 33. So what does x equal?
3.
Was that really that hard?
No.
No. All you had to do was remember this formula.
And you would have been alright.
Okay? Now this one gives us the measure of angle ADC and the measure of ABC. Find the value of x. Now, we know that ABC is congruent to BAD. So that means that if this is 117, what's this one going to be? 117. And it tells us that this angle is 2x minus 7 degrees. Now, are these consecutive or are they base angles?
Consecutive.
These are consecutive. And what do we know about consecutive? You're not gluing that down, so please stop cutting that. What do we know about consecutive angles of a trapezoid? They add up to 180. So you would do 2x minus 7 plus 117 equals 180. Which would mean 2x plus 110 equals 180. Subtract 110 and you get 70. And x is 35.
Now that was easier than the first one.
I know. Now what if it... Yes. Yes. Now what if it told us that this angle down here, this angle C was 117? What would we do with these two things? You would set them equal because they're base angles of an isosceles trapezoid. Now, let's look at our handy dandy notes. What do we know about the base angles of isosceles trapezoids? They're congruent. Please put a star by this.
Let's have that quite a little bit. Oh. I was looking around like, oh, I wasn't looking.
Okay. Please feel free to keep talking. I do not have to review any of this. Now, again, base angles are congruent. These are both on a base. That means they're congruent. These are on a leg, so they have to be what? What? Say it again.
What did you say? 180.
They have to add up to equal 180, right?
Yeah.
Look at you go. Take a point. And is 55 plus 125 180?
Yeah.
All right. Let's look at our kites from yesterday. What do you know about the top legs of a kite?
Oh, yeah.
What do you know about the bottom legs of a kite? What do you know about the diagonals of a kite? They intersect at a 90-degree angle. And what is the sum of any quadrilateral? 360. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to take this handy-dandy sheet that has all of our quadrilaterals that we've talked about this week, and we're going to turn it into a review sheet for our test on Friday. And at the top of this, I want you to write my quadrilateral sheet.
You want to get one? No.
I got two.
Did everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So now, what is our first shape? Please write above that the word rectangle. What we're going to do is we're going to list everything we know about rectangles. No, beside it.
All sides
That doesn't even make any sense. What is the first thing we know? All angles are right angles. Good. Take a point. So what marking should we put inside our rectangle if we know that all angles are right angles? Little squares, a little box. We're not guessing. Okay, somebody at Gryffindor, tell me something else we know.
All opposite sides.
Parallel sides are that side and that side.
So are those called parallel or are those called opposite?
Opposite sides.
Opposite sides are congruent. You're going to get a point for the next one because you're going to say parallel.
What?
Take a point. Opposite sides are congruent. So what mark should we put on the left and the right side? And what mark should we put on the top and the bottom? 2 tickies. Take a point. Alright, Slytherin, tell me something else you know. Y'all are Slytherin.
Opposite sides are parallel.
Opposite sides are parallel. Good. Take a point. We already said that. What mark do we put if opposite sides are parallel? The arrows. Good. And we're going to put one arrow on left and right. So how many do we put on top and bottom? 2. Good. All right, bow buttons. What else do we know?
Consecutive angles or supplementary.
Consecutive angles are supplementary. Good. Yes. Durmstrang. All right, Durmstrang, tell me the next one. Diagonals bisect each other. Good. Take a point. And Ravenclaw, tell me the last thing that we need to know.
Diagonals are congruent.
Good. Take a point. Yes, honey.
Do we put him on our point sheet or is he still on there?
He's on theirs. Now, should we... He's part of your table.
Exactly. Put him out.
Okay.
We put them out.
We did. He doesn't want to sit by y'all today. Alright, now should we draw diagonals so that we can mark this stuff?
Yes.
Let's draw diagonals. Whoa. Please stop doing that. There's a class next to us. Bless you. So if the diagonals are congruent and they bisect each other, what does that mean about the 4 parts that it creates? They are all congruent. Right, and that's not correct. So we're going to put 3 tickies here, 3 tickies here, 3 tickies here, 3 tickies here. What does it mean if they're congruent?
They are the same.
So if one is 3, what's the other one? And if one is 7, what's the other one? And if the whole thing here is 22, what's this half? 11. Now, do the diagonals bisect the angles on a rectangle? Do the diagonals bisect the angles on a rectangle? No, they do not. Diagonals do not bisect the angles on a rectangle. Pardon? Yes, honey, it still goes to the angle. This diagonal goes all the way across regardless of if that's 90. Because this could be 33, and that's going to mean that top one is what?
Yeah, that's what I thought you were asking.
What does the word bisect mean? No, it means cuts in half. So that means you would have 2 congruent angles. Okay. The diagonals do not bisect the angles. Write that down.
What is that?
An arrow.
No. What's that arrow?
Angles.
Angles.
All right. Any questions on a rectangle? Does everybody have all these written down?
No. No.
You have 15 minutes left with me. You're looking at what? I know. I'm just letting you know how much. Okay. Tired of this conversation. Okay, let's look at this problem. Now, these are problems that everybody should have one that's a rectangle. We all have different problems. But you should have one that talks about an angle at one part, correct? Now, mine talks about angle ABD. Now, I just want everyone to watch and see how I work this problem out. It gives me ABD, and then it also talks about CBD. Now, what do we know about all angles of a rectangle? They're 90. They are 90. They are 90-degree angles. So what would that mean we would do with this yellow part and this blue part? Good. Take a point. Add them together, set it equal to 90. What does that mean about cut it in half? We just said that it doesn't bisect. We literally just wrote that down. Alright, so then we're going to add these together, and we're going to set it equal to 90. So we're going to say 1/2 times 4x plus 6 plus 1/2 times 6x plus 14 equals 90 degrees. Now, wouldn't I just solve it from there?
Yeah.
Isn't it magic? Now let's look at the bottom one. The bottom one gives me AE, which is this half, and then it gives me that entire diagonal, correct? The entire diagonal. And what do we know about the diagonals of a rectangle? Look back at what we just wrote down. If you can't remember from 3 seconds ago, look back at what we just wrote down. They bisect each other and they're congruent. So if AE is 2y, what is DE? And what is BE? Now, do we know what the entire length of BD is? We do. We can, because we can read a problem. And it's 60. So what would we do with these two parts? Look at you go. Doesn't it seem so much easier now?
Hang on. Yes.
Maybe like 4.
And then all you gotta do is work the problem out, huh?
Yep.
Okay, why am I struggling with this?
I could not answer that one for you. Now, once you find x here on the top one, are you done? Does it ask you to find x or the measure of angle ABD?
ABD.
So what do you do with x once you find it? Plug it in. All right, let's look at the next figure. What is the next figure?
It's a triangle.
No.
A rhombus.
It is a rhombus. Take a point. So let's write rhombus beside it.
You gonna make us use this on the test or we can't? We'll use this on the test, I already know.
What are the properties of a rhombus? We're all saying something. Opposite sides are parallel because all sides are congruent. Okay. So all sides are congruent and opposite sides are parallel. And then Star, you're going to say yours again in just a second, okay? Because yours is very important. Now, if they're parallel, what symbol do we use? The arrows. And if they're congruent, what symbol do we use? Tickies. And we should put one ticky on all of them because they are all congruent. Now, can someone tell me something about opposite angles? They're congruent. And what about consecutive angles?
For Lupita, for Miss Lupita.
She's already gone for the day. She checked out.
Alright.
I'm sorry.
You want to hold this? Or
I will put it on that card up there. Thank you, love. Have a great day.
This is for Lupita.
Why are you making fun of someone who's just trying to help people? Alright, opposite angles are congruent. What do we know about consecutive angles? Supplementary, yep. Add up to 180. Should we put rainbows on our opposite angles?
Yes.
How many rainbows would we put on bottom left and top right?
1,
How many rainbows would we put on top left and bottom right?
2,
Does anybody need a mo?
yes.
Do you carry that 10 around with you everywhere?
Yep.
Do you use it in all your classes?
Yep. Even if I don't need to, I can come up with something.
I just love you. Alright, are we ready?
Yes.
Oh, sweet Jesus, Tyler. You can do it. Are you ready? Okay, Star, tell me what you know about the diagonals. The diagonals are perpendicular. Take a point. And what else do we know about the diagonals of a rhombus that is very, very, very important? They bisect
The angle.
the angles, yes. Both of you take a point. Diagonals bisect opposite angles. Perpendicular. That's the symbol for perpendicular. Because it intersects at a 90-degree angle. Boom. Knowledge.
Bisect.
Opposite angles.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. I thought it was like a little thing from outside.
Mazzaro.
Ma'am,
How? Just how?
I don't even know. God's gift on something.
Why is he blaming me?
Alright, so let's draw our diagonals. Are the diagonals congruent on a rhombus? No. Remember, we had to change that on our notes. Diagonals are not congruent on a rhombus. Write it in a different color. They're not congruent, but they do still bisect each other. So not only do they bisect opposite angles, they also bisect each other. So how many tickies did we put on the top left and bottom right? 2. And then we would put 3 over here, correct? Yep. Because they are not congruent to each other. Are we ready to look at a rhombus problem? Okay. No, your study guide is for homework. I'm going to give you that in just a minute, as soon as I can find it. Surprise, surprise. It's not on the back of rectangles. It's the one that says rhombi. You do know how to read, right?
Sometimes.
Okay. Are we ready now?
Yeah.
All right, let's look at this rhombus. ABCD is a rhombus with diagonals that intersect at E. So what do we know about the diagonals of a rhombus? They intersect at a what? A 90-degree angle. So let's go ahead and put a box here. Now, this is asking us to find AC if we know that, oh, Blair, that's not a highlighter. What, darling? It's not on the back of rectangle. We all have different ones. We all have different ones. Alright, so this says that DB is 16 and the perimeter is 40. What does it mean about perimeter? The outside, when you add up all the sides, correct? And we know that all the sides are congruent. So how many sides do we have? What's 40 divided by 4? Alright, let's write 10 on all of our sides. Now, if we know that, and you don't need to write 10 on yours if you don't have the same problem as me. If you don't have the same problem as me, don't write 10.
Huh?
If you...
Oh. Oh.
I didn't write it.
Okay, it's not. Now, if DB is 16, what do we know about this part right here? What is it going to be? 8. Talking about this top half up here. So this bottom part's 8, this bottom part's 8. What kind of triangle have we created right there?
Right.
A right triangle. And how do we find the missing side of a right triangle? No.
Subtract
Yeah,
180 and
Nope.
divide by 2.
The side.
You said it equal.
It's a theorem. It's a special theorem.
Oh, that 8 plus 6 was
What is this theorem called?
Pythagorean
Pythagorean theorem.
I'm mad.
Oh, okay. Now, we know what C is because that's across from it. So we don't know what A is. So we're going to say A squared plus 8 squared plus 10 equals 10 squared. If you don't have this problem, don't write this down.
Is it going to be the same way you solve it?
I don't know. Your problem could be different. You're going to read your problem, correct?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You're probably going to use Pythagorean theorem since it's asking for sides.
And I
All right, now what is 8 squared?
16.
What is 10 squared?
100.
And then we would subtract. What's 100 minus 64?
36.
36. And how do we get rid of a squared? Square root. It is its own special button. What is the square root of 36? 6. Now, it asks us for AC. If this part is 6, what is the whole thing?
12.
Nope, 12.
Here you go.
Now, the last part talks about angles. It asks us to find ABD if it gives us DCA.
DCA.
Hang on, why you get 12 in Salisbury?
Because 6 plus 6 is?
12.
12.
Alright, so now you are going to finish your study guide for, well, not finish, you're going to work on your study guide for homework. We're going to finish this mañana. I'm probably going to post a video tonight of these last 3. Does everybody understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Are they going to
Put this up.
I'm sorry to say something on math.
We're probably going to do a review game tomorrow. Like, you're going to have to watch the video